Okay, so today we are in a bit less of a rush. Yesterday's video about chicken of the woods mushrooms was a little bit hurried. Today we've got a little bit more time, so I'm going to do justice, I hope, to the other half of my harvest. Actually, it's more than half. I'm going to try to do justice to these beautiful chicken of the woods mushrooms which I've saved, I picked yesterday. So the first thing we're going to do is get some basic in the frying pan, and then we're going to spend a bit of time cleaning up and cutting up these chicken of the woods mushrooms. We're going to try to make a chicken style pie today. Without chicken, we're going to have mushrooms in it instead. So we're starting off with a large pan, and I'm going to add in a bit of olive oil. And then I've got some smoked bacon. Now, just to make this easy to deal with, I am just going to use kitchen scissors to cut that into rough chunks. I'm not looking for lardons here, I want something a little bit bigger than that. So we will just cut that into biggest chunks like that. I'm going to make this a tasty pie. Now, I'm not making a vegetarian pie here, obviously. Those chicken of the woods mushrooms are an ideal substitute for chicken that's suitable for vegetarians. But as I'm not a vegetarian, I don't feel any particular need to do that. So it's going to be a chicken and bacon pie. So we're just going to spread that bacon out and let it fry. It will cook down a fair little bit into smaller pieces, and we're going to add in some other ingredients, some onions and red peppers and a few other things in a minute. Meanwhile, while that's starting off, we've got to go and prepare our mushrooms. So all I'm really doing here is actually just cleaning up and chunking up these mushrooms, and I'm just going to cut them into sort of cubes, really, like that, to emulate chunks of chicken. I'm looking for about a panful. If there's any softish bits, I'm just going to cut them off. Don't really want any soggy bits in there. I want the firmer pieces of the mushroom. Some of those are a little bit soggy. They must have just got a bit damp in the fridge. And given the abundance of this thing, we can afford to be a little bit selective with what we're actually using. So some of the bits, that if they're far too dirty, I may end up cutting them off completely. Let's see how we get on. The really troublesome bits like that, I may decide that's not worth the effort. Maybe I shouldn't have picked that. Anyway, we'll just continue chopping this up until I've got about a pan full of pieces. Okay, so there we go. We've got a nice bowl full of chicken of the woods mushroom pieces. That's plenty for what I need. Let's chop up some other ingredients now, because I can hear that bacon sizzling. I'm just going to have an onion as well in there. And we'll have about half a red pepper, I think. Okay, so a medium-sized onion and half a red pepper. I'm going to put that in the pan with the bacon. You don't need to see me do that. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Okay, I've just been out and got some fresh herbs. We've got some nice sage there and quite a bit of thyme. Thyme and chicken is a very good combination. I don't need to tell anyone about that, I'm sure. Just going to remove the woody bits out of the thyme sprigs there. That's good. And then I'm just going to give that a little bit of a chop just to release the flavours. Okay, that's all going to go in with the bacon and the onions and red pepper. So back over here at the cooker, the bacon is starting to cook nicely. The onions are starting to soften. It's about the right time to get those mushrooms in there. So this lot's just going to go in on top. And turn up the heat a bit, and then we'll keep on turning that and frying it in the pan. Now this might look a little bit full, but that's what I'm looking for, because I'm actually going to make the pie in this pan. I've stood the camera back a little bit for this next part because what we're going to do now is put a little bit of brandy in there and just give that a nice flame. Now you don't have to do that, but it will create toasted edges on a lot of those ingredients in there, and of course it brings its own flavour components as well to the mix. Okay, now I'm going to turn the heat down a bit now because I'm going to put in some garlic, and I don't want to burn that garlic, I want to cook it all the way through, but I didn't add it earlier because there's a tendency for garlic to burn and turn bitter, and we definitely don't want bitter flavours in our pie. So we'll just let that garlic kind of infuse into the ingredients as they cook from now on. Now you can see how much that's cooked down, not as much as you might find with other ingredients, other kinds of mushrooms. I'll just go for a little bit of seasoning now. Bit of black pepper. I'm not adding salt because the bacon itself is quite salty, so we'll allow that to do its thing. I'm just going to turn that off now while we preheat the oven and get the pastry ready. Also at this stage, while it's just cooling down or coming off the rapid heating, I'm just going to dust the top with about a tablespoon of white flour, and I'm just going to toss the ingredients in it. And what that will do is, as it just continues to cook, that will just fry a little bit, and then when we add the liquid ingredients for the gravy, that will help to thicken it up and produce a really nice gravy inside the pie. But we'll just leave that to fry for a tiny bit more in the residual heat of the pan. Okay, so here's what we do next. We're going to bring that heat back up. We're just going to bring the ingredients in a tiny bit from the edge of the pan. Like that. And then we're going to add the ingredients for our gravy. And so I've got some just single cream. And we're going to pour that over. A whole carton, that's, I don't know, 250ml of single cream. And then I've actually got some soy sauce and water here as well. Just going to add a little bit of that, just as an extra browning ingredient. Then we need pie funnel. And let's get the pastry on there. So the pastry I'm just going to kind of drape across the top. I'm not too fussed if it dips into the pan a little bit. It's kind of a bit rough and ready here. We're just going to wing it. Where's my sharp knife? Okay. And we're just going to poke some holes around there as well, just to vent the steam from the pie. One final thing is just a quick egg wash on that pastry, which will help to give it a really golden crust on top. Lose that bit of pastry there, so we'll just tuck it in, egg wash it. Now I'm expecting that some of this gravy will bubble up over the edge of the pie, and I'm not too worried about it. I'm going for a kind of rough and ready, rustic, country chicken pie effect. Right, let's get that in the oven for about half an hour, I reckon. So that's the good thing with using a metal skillet like this, is the whole thing can go straight in the oven. Okay, so there it is. And that's a fine looking pie. It is very rustic and rough and ready, but that's exactly what I expected. I'm actually just going to let that sit for a little bit before we serve, because it's just going to be too hot at the moment. We'll just burn our mouths. So I'm just going to let that sit and rest. Cover up the handle there so that nobody just grabs that straight off, because that's red hot. So there we go, that's the pie. So let's dig in and see what sort of a pie we've got here. Looks pretty good. Yes, and the cream has all cooked down into a nice gravy to fill the pie. It's coated everything really nicely. Just going to add on some buttered potatoes. And a few vegetables. So then, let's dig in and give this chicken of the woods pie a proper taste. Let's make sure we got a piece of the mushroom, a nice bit of pastry, maybe a bit of the red pepper. Let's give that a taste. That's a really substantial pie, and I don't miss meat at all in here. Actually, I mean, obviously there is bacon in here, so it's a bit of a cheat, but the chicken-like texture of the mushroom is really good here. Right, that was really nice, but it's defeated me. I had one portion and then a second portion. I can't get all the way through it. It's really quite a substantial mushroom, but I just wanted to look at this. Look at that. That's a piece of the mushroom, and compare that to how we expect chicken to look. It really is. This mushroom definitely lives up to its name. Chicken of the woods. So there we go. That's my chicken of the woods pie. I hope that's done justice to this fantastic fungus. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.